former ambassador in the United States, Dr. Spio Garbrah, has criticized President Akufo-Addo for failing to take action against the country's High Commissioner to South Africa, Prof Kwesi Botchwey, over the diplomat's recent comment. Mr. Kwesi Botchwey has come under heavy criticism for saying he would favor NPP members over members of other political parties, prompting calls for his resignation or sacking. But there's concern that the presidency has been silent. Dr. Spio Garbrah says the president should have acted swiftly. This is one of many issues discussed with the former Minister of Trade, Education, and also ambassador to the US, and now aspiring to lead the NDC into the next elections. Dr. Spio Garbrah is my special guest for today. I love talking to special guests, and I have one of them with me today. His name is Dr. Spio Garbrah. He served in several ministries here in this country. He served as the Trade and Industry Minister, Communications, Education, Mines and Energy, and of course, he was Ghana's ambassador to United States and Mexico some time ago. He was also, or he is, former CEO of the Commonwealth Telecom Organization. Sounds like a lot more. He's going to break it all down for us, how he did it, how far he has come, and about the word that he may just, want to be president of Ghana. So you're welcome. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
How is the opposition, your opposition diary looking like?
Well, opposition in the manner of the Western-style democracy that we've accepted for our governance in Ghana. Basically, it's like football teams. You play some matches, sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. And when you lose, as we've done, follow the December 2016 election, you go back to the drawing board and you look at what you should do differently so you can come and win again.
So what is it that you're doing, at the moment? How do you keep yourself busy? What is it that keeps you going? Are you talking
about me personally or the party? The
NDC? You personally.
Oh, I have so many things that keep me busy. Among other things, I have a youth mentorship program where we go into secondary schools and universities and share with them our life experiences. I mobilize other professionals in different fields of endeavor. Some are public servants, some are industrialists, some are entrepreneurs of different kinds, some are professionals, doctors, dentists, lawyers, bankers, graphic designers, entertainment people, and say, let's go back into the secondary schools and let's supplement what teachers teach our students. The truth is that many of our teachers are very good in their subjects, so they may teach geography, good French, good music, mathematics, but they don't have the experience of somebody who's worked at the Cocoa Board, or State Insurance Corporation, or Talu, or Nestle, or Unilever, or Barclays Bank. And so there's a difference between what students are learning in the classroom, which is good, and what is happening in the real world, which is where they want to get to. So and invariably they graduate and they find difficulty in getting work. So you have an association of unemployed graduates. And not too many people are doing anything about it. We all recognize it as a problem. But most people are just talking about it and not doing anything about it. Now I like to solve problems, so I'm doing something about it.
So in your opposition days, this is basically what you're doing?
Well, I've been doing it for 10 years, so it's not just because we are in opposition, but even while as a government minister, I was encouraging the staff of the organization, because I'm chairman of the company or the organization, the social enterprise, if you like, to go out and do those things.
Well, what's the name?
Very simple, ABCDE, African Business Center for Developing Education.
I see, ABCDE, that's interesting. That then gives you some time,
But I do some farming as well. My farm is just about 30 minutes away, so I spent most of yesterday on the farm.
Farming. What do you do on the farm?
17 years. Doing cashews, mangoes, pineapples,
but
oil
palm.
palm.
You don't do anything on the farm. I can imagine.
I own the farm. I have to do something. I have to pay. Yesterday was payday. I have to go and pay workers.
Okay, no, personally, you don't like weed or
if somebody can do the work better than I, that's about specialization. I can do the thinking, the planning. Somebody can weed better than me. Somebody can spray better than me. So I'm not going to try and substitute myself for other people who can do the work and get paid. It's a way of also helping people who are unemployed to have something productive to do.
Let's look at the NDC administration under which you served. What do you think went wrong?
I don't think anything went wrong. We served the country as well as we could. We provided probably the largest quantum of infrastructure that has ever been provided by any government in the history of Ghana, possibly even more than the Kwame Nkrumah government, except for the establishment of industries. Which
is that seriously a realistic?
No, you can go and do the calculations. Yeah, you can go and do the physical calculations in terms of numbers of hospitals, numbers of secondary schools, numbers of universities, numbers of or mileage of roads, bridges, port rehabilitation, airport rehabilitation, in terms of quantity and hopefully also quality. this government did more than most governments have ever done. Other governments did other things, for sure. But in terms of infrastructure, I mean, the Mahama government did a lot. Now, what the government did not do well enough was in the creation of jobs. The reality is that infrastructure jobs tend to be more short-term jobs. Right. So when you're building a house, you're building a school, you're building a bridge, the jobs for that infrastructure may be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But industrial jobs, that's what Kwame Nkrumah did. He established mostly industries. So there were almost 300 industries established that were state-owned industries under Kwame Nkrumah. Now when you find somebody working at Unilever or Accra Brewery, somebody has worked there for 25 years or 30 years in the same company. You find Nestle or some of these cocoa processing companies, somebody's worked there for 15 years, 18 years, 20 years. So industrial jobs, generally speaking, are longer-term jobs than infrastructure jobs. So we did a lot of infrastructure, but the jobs we created were shorter-term jobs. So people came out of those jobs.
Did the government know this?
Well, I knew it, but I knew it because I was in the Ministry of Industry. But if you haven't worked in industry and you have not thought through it, right, you might not know it. It's not a subject that came up.
So was it not
the economic management team?
Would you say it wasn't well thought through? Well, if Kwame Nkrumah at the time, in his time, was able to have this foresight and look into the future of the people and created jobs that could last years, why
but he did that, but he also lost out on the prices of consumer goods. I mean, no government is perfect. So even though Nkrumah created a lot of jobs, by 1965, 1966, Ghanaians were crying that they can't get sardine, they can't get milk, they can't get sugar, they can't get biscuits. I mean,
the question I'm really trying to get you to answer is why you did not, create the long-term jobs, for example, knowing very well that that could well be the solution to the age-old problem of unemployment.
We created a lot of jobs also, but through the private sector. It wasn't government-initiated jobs or the government-initiated industries, other than for such industries as the Commander Sugar Factory.
Any statistics?
The idea was that, but if you go to the Export Development and Agricultural Investment Fund, EDIF, which is now Export-Import Bank, and just ask them, over the last 8 years, from 2009 to 2016, give me the list of companies you invested in or you gave money in. That would be enough for you to know about the poultry farms, the oil palm processing companies, the shea butter processing companies, the coconut processing companies, the tomato processing companies that the Export Development and Agricultural Investment Fund, which is now Export-Import Bank, gave money to. If you go to the National Board for Small-Scale Industries and ask them, dear gentlemen and ladies, give me a list of all the companies you supported and invested in during the Mills Mahama years. They'll give you a list. If you go to the rural, that's what I'm telling you. They have all the statistics. We gave this company so much for a poultry farm. The poultry farm said they will create 250 jobs. So now they may or may not have created 250 jobs. That's a private company. So you as a media person can go and check whether the loan given to poultry farm A actually created 200 jobs, 180 jobs, or 270 jobs.
You're asking me as a media person to go looking.
No, that's if you're interested in the subject.
Fair enough,
because you're interested, you're asking me a question.
Really fair enough. But
the media do that also anyway.
I mean, one of the things that you were doing was campaigning, asking people to vote for you, give you another mandate to stay in power. So these are some of the figures that you perhaps are expected to have on your fingertips.
We had those figures and we're using them. The campaign is over, so we don't memorize these figures eternally.
Okay, so you don't have that figure.
No, I mean, not for this interview, but if you wanted me to prepare for the interview by saying, please come to the interview with how many jobs are created in poultry farming, how many in cashew farming, we would have given you the figures.
That's because we're talking about what they did not do, or what they could have done more, what the administration and the which you serve could have done a bit more. Apart from
most other countries, there's unemployment in the United States. There's unemployment in the United Kingdom. Right. There's unemployment, especially the southern part of Europe. Those countries are going through turmoil.
But we're dealing with ours here.
No, we're dealing with ours. But if you don't make it comparative, you make it look as if maybe Ghana is some island on itself, which alone couldn't create jobs. Look at almost 40% unemployment in South Africa, one of the largest economies in Africa. High levels of unemployment in Nigeria, 180 million people. So I'm saying that unemployment problems are global, but as long as you have any unemployed people, they are bound to be frustrated. They can vote against you, they can organize against you. We had our share. Is one of the many things that would have caused our defeat.
What caused your defeat?
One of the many things that.
One of the many things. So,
no defeat is one reason.
So inability to perhaps create the needed jobs, and then what? If you can list them for.
As you would have liked.
Not as many.
There were also some frustrations within the party, as there are in every party. Even in the current government, there are people going around saying they have not been taken care of. Have you seen those people who are raiding?
Yeah, that's something we'll talk about, but let's deal with NDC.
Yeah, but I'm saying
when you were in power, so that we don't mix it up, so our viewers can have a better...
It's very important to appreciate that these things are not unique to any party.
Very well, but I want us to deal, I mean, like, let's deal with yours, and then later on I can have you, speak to us about your thought about what's going on at the moment. So in the NDC administration, for example,
I think there's a Kwesi Botchwey report out there, which some of you in the media claim to have copies of and are serializing. And of course, those whose names you mentioned also come out and complain, hey, I'm not really the one, I'm not in the report, or the report didn't say that, or prove that the report say that. Nevertheless, without having a copy of the report myself, you can sit in your room and appreciate that in almost all elections, among the things that often go wrong are organization, communications,
can we be specific
research.
With yours, with the NDC?
Well, I'm saying that I don't have a copy of the Kwesi Botchwey report.
No.
So if you ask me to tell you, it will be speculative.
No, sir, in your opinion. In your opinion.
Well, I'm giving the answers. I'm giving the answers.
Please.
I'm giving the answers. I said, first of all, there were global factors that people haven't taken into account, but I was using those global factors to remind you that the whole global economy was on a downturn. China, which had been the basis for the rapid growth of the global economy, was not buying and manufacturing as much as before. As a result, the entire global economy went down. Countries like the United States were growing at 1, 2, 3%. European countries were growing some negatively, below 1. And African countries mostly were doing below 3%. And so Ghana also had this growth come from 9, 7, 8, down to about 3. So that's the global part which people tend to overlook, because we don't live as an island by ourselves. Fine, so that was global. Then number 2, you come inside Ghana itself, you have challenges with the decision to invest more in infrastructure than, let's say, in industry, which would have been longer-term jobs. So every government has to take decisions. That's the decision that was taken, and I'm saying the result of that is that we provided probably among the biggest number of infrastructure projects that has taken place in Ghana's history for a long time. I don't think any government since Kwame Nkrumah built more than maybe 100 secondary schools, but I stand to be corrected. If Kufuor's government built 100 secondary schools, or Rawlings's government built 100 secondary schools, or Champon's government built 100 secondary schools, but under John Mahama, there were over 100 schools built to different levels of completion. So that's just an example, hospitals and all that. But those jobs, as I said, were shorter-term jobs than jobs that could have been longer-term. So people got jobs, but after 1 or 2 years, they were back looking for another job. And then they get frustrated, and then they might not vote for you. Number 3, organizations within the party itself, according to what we know, a number of parallel structures.
What your opinion is, sir? I think you said based on what we know. Is it?
No, but I cannot have just an opinion which is not based on some evidence or some facts.
That this, what you're saying, has nothing really to do with the Kwesi Botchwey report, so that we can tackle the Kwesi Botchwey.
No, I can't have an opinion on my own. I have to have an opinion based on some facts which will be similar to what anybody else goes to find out. My opinion can be from, with all due respect,
so you mentioned
from the moon.
You've mentioned frustrations. You mentioned the decision between, that is, infrastructure versus industrialization.
And I said organizationally, there were a number of parallel organizations that were created. People who supposedly meant well. So they said we are the ladies for Mahama, or we are the youth for Mahama, or so and so for Mahama. And what we understand, because I don't have personal evidence of it, this is what you say, what is your personal opinion? I didn't see money being given to those groups to go and campaign versus money to the party to campaign. But the party is saying we didn't get some or most or all of the money. And the money went to other groups, which also meant well, but they're not part of the official party structures. So there were some conflicts and tensions between these groups and the party executives who may feel, well, if the money doesn't come to me, then I can fold my arms and watch. But above all, NPP did not win the election, as you may imagine, but then DC lost it because some nearly 900,000 NDC people that should have voted for NDC and who did vote for NDC in 2012 chose not to vote in 2016. Now you'll have to go to those people to find out what their reasons are. I can speculate as to what I think their reasons were, which are some of the things I'm sharing with you, different levels of frustration over whatever they were. They didn't vote for NDC. So that also made a difference. Then in the communication area, there are lots of discussions as to the extent to which we did proper research, opinion polling, how we selected our messages, whether our messages were forward-looking enough or were backward-looking enough. So for example, if we tell most Ghanaians that look at the wonderful schools we've built for you, look at some of the bridges we've built for you, look at the hospitals we've built for you, people might say, yeah, okay, fine, you did that, and that may be taxpayers' money you built for us. But we didn't spend as much time saying what we shall do for you when you vote for us for the next 4 years.
Okay.
Whereas others came and said, well, if you vote for us, we shall give you one district, one factory. If you vote for us, it's more forward-looking.
There was a re-emphasis
some were doing
on what you have done.
Sloganeering, as I call it. They had beautiful slogans, which they are finding difficulty in implementing, as you must know. And you can say, you can come to that later. It was easy to make those, one village, one dam, one fisherman, one canoe, one district, one factory, one this, one that.
Which some of you mocked anyway.
Yeah, it's all from the Chinese who had the one belt, one road policy and program for the last 5 years. And somebody must have gone there. There's nothing wrong with
Chinese.
That. They can tell it. But that day, the Chinese came up with one belt, one road, certainly before any one thing, one that from Ghana. So on that basis alone, one can say yes. There's nothing wrong with copying anybody or imitating.
Copy and make it better.
Well, fine. They say imitation is the best form of flattery. we hear. So if they imitated the Chinese and it worked for them,
so there were obvious issues there that you had to deal with as a party.
The collation system of NDC, we all know, didn't work well in terms of on the day of the election also, how to collate your results, how to send them to central locations, and then announce internally what you've collected. There's no question that NDC didn't do that successfully.
Speaking of which, I'd like for us to have a chat about the Kwesi Botchwey report. You say you have not seen a copy of it?
I think all people in the media are struggling to get copies of it. Some claim they have a copy, but you have ministers in the Mahama government who are alleged to have been mentioned in the report, who are saying they're going to take legal action to get copies of the report. So if ministers in the Mahama government must struggle to get a copy of the report and use legal means, then that tells you how tightly sealed the report is at this time.
Yeah, I believe that you have followed the serialization, of the report. I mean, some newspapers have done it.
Yeah. But there's always, everybody says they're fake reports.
They're fake reports.
That's what the party and
with the issues, the sort of issues that have been raised in the report, and you being a part of the government, is there anything in the report that resonates with your thoughts, or what you must have seen?
Very good fake news.
Yes, true.
It's such that it will report that, depending on where you live, they'll report that so-and-so lives in so-and-so, she drives this car, she goes to work here. So everything else looks correct, except maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs which are not correct, which will twist it so that it looks credible.
Do you feel that the Kwesi Botchwey reports, which we have serialized,
going out with this guy on this occasion, and that part may be wrong, but everything else looks right. And so when you read it, it looks like as if it's actually happened.
So the one that the media...
So there are things that are in the report that I'm sure imitate or mimic the truth, but then it's blended with other things that may not be entirely true, and then you, the reader, can't tell which is true and which is false.
Are you sincerely, truthfully convinced that whatever is included in this report does not really make it authentic?
Why should I say that? No. Of course not at all. Professor Botchwey is a very renowned academician. I don't think anybody will doubt his research activities, and he didn't do it by himself. There was an initial 13-person committee which was expanded to more than 30 people going around the country. All they did was to collate the statements and comments and observations and opinions and accusations and recommendations of the NDC members themselves. They did not create any new information. They just collated the information, summarized it under different headings, and said, this is what people are saying. I was
actually referring to what's in the media, what's been put out there in the media. Is there any bit of it that
I have no means to determine the degree of authenticity of those reports. The party headquarters and those who may have copies of it are those who can read what they have on page 37, because these reports that are supposedly fake almost always mention a page number. So they take a page number 37 or page 43, and they can look at the official page 43 and say, well, this is not true. But I can't do that.
I find it a bit surprising that as a member that you were in the party and in the government, that you do not have access to this. What's happening? Is there...
You have to ask the party headquarters about that. They are the ones deciding how to manage the report. I have some views on how they could manage it differently, but as I said, I would rather share that with the party executives when I get the chance to talk to them about it.
You've indicated that making the report secret, etc., is bad for the party. How do you mean?
I don't say it's bad for the party. I'm saying that there are ways in which a report of that nature can be shared in different ways, and it's up to the party to reflect on the different options. You can have a précis, you can have a summary, You can have excerpts. You can have redaction. You can have editing of the report, if you wish, and share some of those with different categories of people, if you wish. So those are all options that I would like to pray that the party executives are thinking about and seeing, if we do it this way, what are the pros and cons? If we do it this other way, what are the pros and cons? But keeping the entire document secret for eternity, that is going to be a difficult one.
That's going to be a difficult one to keep for eternity. But why do you think they're doing so? Why is it a seeming great effort?
Well, I think the view I've heard is that people would say that, oh, our opponents will use it against us.
Okay.
Let's make it simple.
You don't believe that, obviously.
Our opponents will use it against us. At the same time, if you yourself, who has a certain illness, go to see a doctor, and the doctor will not share with you the nature of the illness you have, it becomes difficult for you to cure yourself. So you have to weigh the two problems. You have taken an X-ray, but X-ray, they won't share the X-ray with you. You did a urine test and a stool test, but they won't tell you what happened in the urine test.
There's a school of thought.
Take this medicine.
Right.
I don't know why you're taking the medicine. It becomes difficult for you, the patient, also to cure yourself. So you have to argue on both sides and see on the balance, how do we get the patient only to see it without his relatives and his enemies at school or in the office also seeing it?
Right. There's a school of thought.
When you have a certain strange illness, the doctor may want you to know, but he doesn't want your co-workers also to know, who may use it against you or tease you with it. And that is where the challenge is.
There's a school of thought actually out there that the kind of information that's contained in this report will be extremely damaging to the NDC, and that is the reason why they are
I'm not sure it will be damaging to the NDC as a whole. It may be damaging to certain individuals in the NDC, yes.
Who do you think these individuals are?
I don't know. I don't want to speculate about it because I don't know whose names have been mentioned in the report.
Former president.
But I would imagine that anybody whose name has been mentioned specifically as not having done this or having done that which was negative will see it as something they may not want the rest of the world to see. And unfortunately, the party headquarters themselves have officers who may have done things rightly or wrongly, and who may also they may also not be, they have a vested interest in the report not being seen by others. You know, so
these are all possibilities that you're throwing around here. But persons like Dr. Omane-Boamah, for example, has been mentioned. Persons like Stan Dugbe has been mentioned. Like you're saying, you have not had access, but the things that they are said to have done, does it resonate with your experience at the time you were working? I
have no basis to know what has been written in the report, and therefore what
they said that some monies were edited, monies meant for the
you are saying it. I haven't read that. See, this is the point. I've not read that report, so I'm not able to agree or disagree with you.
You don't believe
it's not a matter of have you read the report? You said they say that you haven't read the report yourself.
Yes, I've read the portion of it.
You've read a certain document that claims to be the report.
Well, you don't think it is.
Which you yourself cannot verify as being the report, because only Dr. Botchwey can tell that yes, this page 73 to 80 that you have a copy of is truly part of the report. Okay. And they've signed a narrate or something. I haven't seen it. I'm not sure what you've seen is the report. I can't deal with it. All right.
Like you said, it won't be a secret for eternity. We'll definitely get to know someday. But let's talk about that. If you would rate the work of the NDC executive, the previous NDC executive, how would you rate?
I wouldn't rate them. I wouldn't rate them on any news organization. No, not at all.
But you would rate them, in your own small.
I think the Congress or the elections that we'll have next year, where we are going through a reorganization, branch elections, constituency elections, regional elections, and then national party elections, will tell all of us what the party members themselves think of anybody who is standing for the elections. That is the only way to tell whether somebody did well or somebody didn't do well, according to party members. Right. So I, sitting here by myself, have no capacity, no authority, and no ability to rate anybody. The party delegates will rate them.
You are a party member. These are your executives.
I agree, and I'm saying that the best way to rate people is to allow the electorate, just as we went to an election, and the electorate ostensibly didn't vote for us, and we are in opposition. In the same way that party executives who are interested in running again will present themselves, and the electorate will decide if they should come back or they should sit home.
Looking at persons who want to run again, before I even get to the persons who want to run again, what, in your opinion, could help the NDC put itself together? It appears that you are not very strong at the moment, if I'm right.
Oh, we are very strong. I mean,
you are?
Let me see the strongest party in this country. We have the largest mass following in this country. But when we do something that some of those people think is not good, then we lose a certain percentage of the votes and we are out of power. But in terms of the majority of the people in this country, we have been a mass party. The NPP and their precedents, whether I call them People's Front Party, PFP, or when they were Progress Party, or when they were United Party, have always been an elitist party, a party of suit-wearing intelligentsia. Kwame Nkrumah came and found them talking big English, went down to the ordinary people, had Vanna boys and girls campaigning for him, and just beat them at elections in perpetuity until they overthrew him using the CIA and the Ghana Armed Forces and Police. So if you leave NPP to themselves, they will not make it. But they've done a good job in the last 30 years of transforming themselves into an attempt to be somewhat closer to the ordinary person.
Okay, sir.
And so that's a very good effort they made to transform themselves. But by their own thinking, when they write that we are a property-owning democracy, that's what they describe themselves as.
So
that means we are coming to take over the... No, but that's important. You want to know how the parties are. And I'm saying you come, they want to take over the accommodations in Airport Residential Area, Roman Ridge, and cantonments, and Laboni.
One of the things they told us, for example, in the report, the summary that, the Kwesi Botchwey report, the summary that we were given indicated that there was some sort of reorganization to do, and the party itself has been very emphatic about the sort of reorganization that's needed. That's the basis.
No, reorganization, anytime you lose election, you need to reorganize. In any case, all the constitutions of all parties, including ours, require elections every so often. It used to be 2 years, now it's 4 years. I don't think there's anything, let's follow the constitution. Every 4 years have elections. Branch elections, of course. At the branch,
so if you were running the party, for example, is that all you do in terms of reorganization?
That is what the party is doing right now. Between now, November, and end of January, we're going to have elections at the branch level. The branch level is the polling station. 29,000 polling stations in Ghana, so about 29,000 NDC branches. Everyone, elect your chairman, vice chairman, secretary, public relations officer, women's organizer, youth organizer. That process forces the party to reflect on itself, to see who didn't do their work well, and to put the right people in. Once you go through that refreshing process of changing the non-performance and putting in somewhat better performance, and you do it all the way from the grassroots all the way to the top. By the time you get there, you have a somewhat strengthened party, a bolder party, and look, people don't, you haven't had people deflecting or defecting rather from NDC to NPP because NPP have lost one election. Give me one name of any prominent person you've heard that.
So obviously there's a strategy at this reorganization process.
They have joined NPP, no.
So obviously there's a strategy.
Kotoko beat Hearts recently, I believe. I don't think most Hearts supporters have become Kotoko supporters just because of that. So our supporters are on the ground. They may be, some of them may be unhappy, some will be disillusioned, but they are looking for leadership. They're looking for fresh thoughts and fresh vision. And if they see it and they can see somebody that they feel they can follow into victory, they will.
Are you one of those fresh?
I'm one of those, for sure, yes.
Great. Sounds very emphatic to me. The last time I heard you, you weren't quite sure.
I've never been unsure about whether I'm fresh or whether I'm new or whether I have the ideas or whether I'm capable. That has not been my issue. What I've said in the past, and I'm still saying, is that it is better for all those who could become leaders of the NDC or who may even have declared themselves as leaders of the NDC to focus on exactly what I've just said. Strengthening the party at the grassroots and letting us build the party to the top rather than beginning a premature fight over who will lead the party. On the grounds that I use the image of a car that has had an accident and the mechanics are now going to Koko Mpe and Abosokai looking for the usual parts for the transmission.
You think that's what's happening in
Absolutely.
At the moment?
The process of changing the branch executive and chairman and organizer is looking for the parts for the car, looking for the mirror that has been smashed, looking for the engine oil, looking for transmission fluid. That is re-electing people at the branch level to give the party the strength it needs. Because at the branch level, people know who performed, who didn't perform, who was given a motorbike and used it personally or parked it somewhere and didn't use it, who was given some money and didn't use it, who still has T-shirts in his house that he didn't distribute. At the branch level, they have that knowledge. I don't have it.
When I asked about you being that visionary leader, whether or not you thought you were, I wanted us to talk about your presidential bid. How is it coming?
Yeah, but I was asking the question that, as to my knowing who I am and what I can do, I don't think I have any doubt about it. I've never been unsure of myself. As far back as 11 years ago, you may have been a young woman then, maybe you're in school. I was a contestant for the leadership of the party in 2006. So that's how far back I have made it known to anybody who is interested that I consider myself as one of a number of people who, by God's grace, has some knowledge, some training, some education, some experiences, some exposure, some passion for Ghana, and also commitment to NDC, and who, given the opportunity, can make a difference in Ghana's future.
How many other people do you see possess the same sort of experience, etc.?
I think they can come and speak for themselves.
Okay, so
I can only speak for myself, but there could be 5, there could be 10 contestants.
Right. So far, we know that former President John Mahama is likely to contest. We know
Has
that
he declared his interest to you?
I mean, we have heard. We've heard also about Alban Bagbin. We've heard about Professor Joshua Alabi, former Vice Chancellor, the UPSA. A few other names, including yourself.
Thank you very much.
You're ready to come up against these?
I'm not coming up against anybody.
I mean, in terms of
myself to the people of the NDC, the members of the NDC party, and eventually to the people of Ghana as someone who they can evaluate, they can consider, they can address, they can look at my life and determine whether this man has enough integrity, this man has enough experience, this man has enough common sense, this man has shown capacities and ability to solve problems in his previous occupations, this man has shown a passion and commitment to our country, and therefore we can entrust him with the leadership of the country. That is what it's about. The fact that others are interested in it, all well and good, because no one person is the sole solution to Ghana's problems. It takes teamwork. And so even if when you come as a leader, you must be willing to work with others. And I've shown a capacity to work with people of all kinds of backgrounds, all kinds of faiths, all kinds of ages, all kinds of demography, in order to achieve goals, not just in Ghana, but in many other organizations I've worked with and worked in worldwide. Former
President, John Mahama called you into the government, made you a part of his ministerial team.
Yes, sir.
If he, he's definitely going to, present himself as well, will that stop you somehow from presenting yourself?
My capacity to serve Ghana has nothing to do with other people's capacity to serve Ghana. I think I've just explained it. In 2006, when I was standing as a candidate for the NDC, most of the people whose names you are mentioning today, they were also alive. They did not present themselves at that time as individuals who were interested in leading the party. But if today some of them want to lead the party, that's fine. Competition is good for business, competition is good for churches, competition is good in classrooms, competition is good in politics.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Competition is good on the sports field.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you once say that you were not really, that you wouldn't contest if you should know that the former president was going to contest?
And I wait for anybody who has a soundtrack that can be played to that effect. But I saw stories in the media, like I said, fake news. People may have been creating their own fake news and their own propaganda in order to satisfy some particular interest. Why should I make my ability to serve this nation predicated on anybody else's ability to serve the nation? When I came to serve as a minister, I left fantastic jobs in the international community. I didn't say I will come only if Mr. So-and-so is coming or Mr. So-and-so is not coming. I just came to serve the nation.
But you obviously feel you can do the job better than John Mahama did.
It's not a matter of feeling that you can do it better.
You believe so?
I believe I can do a good job as president of Ghana, not better than Kwame Nkrumah, better than Rawlings, or better than any other former president.
I'm curious to know. We have
I don't think the idea, they should evaluate me on my own capacity, based on my own experiences, and based on what I'll share with them as my vision. What's
the relationship between you and former President John Mahama?
Excellent.
So he knows about your ambitions?
We are very good friends.
He knows about
your in the newspapers.
Did you have a personal chat?
He doesn't have to ask me to know my capacity.
So you got to know in the media?
I said I was a candidate in 2006. The whole world got to know. Weren't you? Yes. I'm sorry to say, you may have been young.
In 2016.
2006. Yeah, 2006. But I was a candidate for the leader. Listen, for the 2006. 2006. You know, I was a minister in 1997, and he was my deputy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been his boss before, and he's also been my boss recently. But let's put issues of bosses around. We are good friends as individuals. 2006, I present myself as a potential candidate of NDC. 2016, we go to an election, we lose. 2017, as you see me sitting here, by God's grace, I'm alive, I'm well, I'm a healthy man, I'm happy, I have my potentials, I have my capacities, Why would any right-thinking person think that I could not or should not be a candidate for the leadership of the party? I was the vice chairman of the party. I was the director of communications of the party headquarters. I was the head of the communications campaign for Tamils. I've served the party in all kinds of capacities.
Have you had a friend?
I'm not going to disclose conversations I have with other people with regards to my political activities. I'm talking to everybody and anybody who
So you're saying that
I can find
about your ambitions in the media?
You are speculating about it. I say I'm not going to report on conversations I've had with any number of people regarding my interest.
Is he happy about it?
When you see him, you ask him that question. Because you're asking me to report on his state of happiness about something. Only he can answer that question, with all due respect.
That he is?
I would encourage you to have an interview with him.
Okay.
One of these days.
Yeah, well, I'm still having a conversation with Dr. Spio Garbrah. Like I said, he's worked in several ministries here in this country. He's worked internationally as well. And of course, he's made it clear he wants to be president of this country on the ticket of the NDC. As to whether or not he has had a conversation with his former subordinates and former boss, he won't tell us. We'll be back.